I'm definitely a sugar addict. I ended up going for just my annual blood work. My doctor brought me in. The first words out of her mouth were, "You have the blood work of a 90-year-old. What's going on?" And I was like, uh-oh. My doctors have me come in every 3 weeks for more lab work. I'm getting closer and closer to stage 4 kidney disease. And at that point, I was stage 3, 3A, and then it moved to stage 3B. I'm feeling increasingly bad too. I didn't stop eating sugar during this time either. I was always using sugar basically to get me through my workday mostly, or if any stress. I'm definitely a sugar addict. That means I could eat pretty much all day long massive amounts of sugary things. So an example would be I could open a bag of personal sized Milky Ways. I could eat the whole bag in a day. Just sit. I was kind of a workaholic, so I'd sit at my desk, work, and then eat, some chocolate. And then I might have like half a bag of Twizzlers that day. And then maybe eat some, have some real food, but then have something sweet after, and then bagels with butter and honey on it, things like that. My family, like I was the breadwinner. And so it was very important that I continued to work and to do a good job. And to do that, I fueled myself and calmed my nerves with all this sugar. And I continued to do that. My weight would go up and down. And I'm 50, almost 52 now. And so over the course of my working life, I did the exact same thing. I would fuel up on sugar. I ended up going for just my annual blood work. My doctor brought me in. She said, "I need you to come and talk about your blood work." So I went in there and the first words out of her mouth were, "You have the blood work of a 90-year-old. What's going on?" And I was like, uh-oh. At that time, the first thing I thought of was I always have these allergies and I was popping Benadryls and caffeine pills like crazy to try and quell my allergies. Like I have my allergies right now. I'll probably cough during this interview, but they're not nearly as bad. And so I thought, oh, it must be the Benadryl. And then I had read, you take NSAIDs, ibuprofen, could be that. All this time, over this course of months, my doctors have me come in every 3 weeks for more lab work. I'm getting closer and closer to stage 4 kidney disease. And at that point, I was stage 3, 3A, and then it moved to stage 3B. My creatinine and my GFR levels were bad. And I'm researching, I'm getting increasingly worried because I have two daughters. I have to be here for them. I had a feeling of what I would call kind of dirty blood. That sounds very Harry Potter, but that's not what I mean. What I mean is that I felt fatigued as I was walking around and I got so quickly back to my home. I thought, wow, this used to take me over an hour to walk my dog around this school when I had my kidney disease because I was so weak and I had a gait, GAIT, where I didn't walk like regular people do in a straight line. I had this kind of weird walk that had developed because of my weakness, hazy brain. My ankles were very swollen. I had a lot of inflammation all over my body. My face, like I have kind of Campbell's kid's face. You know what that means? Probably not, but Campbell's kid's face, like a fatter face in general. But my face and everything was inflamed. So while I'm doing all this blood work, all these symptoms are coming to a head. At the worst of it, I had inflammation all like down here, not just in my kidney area, but right under my breasts where I had this pain, this awful pain. I would be going through the grocery store, my kidneys would start to hurt. I was heading toward my slow death, is what I call it. Anyway, I started researching kidney and going off the beaten path. And I found this guy that looks like a dad. He looks like he's an accountant. I mean, he's not like a flashy influencer. He was touting eating ribeyes healed his kidneys. I was like, eating ribeyes healed your kidneys. He didn't seem, disingenuous or like he wanted to be famous. He was just trying to help people. So it really appealed to me. And I thought, I could eat ribeyes for my kidneys. I'll give it a shot. I didn't cook it well. It tasted like crap. And so, but I did it. I would cook the ribeye and I would try to eat it. Well, my numbers moved slightly, like in a short period of time. As like, maybe the accountant guy is right, you know? So I kept trying to force down the ribeyes. In the course of that, my sugar addiction changed. I was continually researching and I found I really dug into my lab work. I looked at my lab work, all my other labs and all my other results, I found they were because of the sugar. The onslaught of the sugar, like my organs literally bathing in sugar. And I had a bunch of other things. I was pre-diabetic. Anyway, I was like, wow, all of these things are because of my sugar. And I was kind of shocked. I should have been because in the back of my mind, I always knew that I was killing myself, you know? Like I might as well have been sitting down shooting bourbon or something. I mean, it was like it was affecting me like it would an alcoholic, just a systemic decrease in health. I did the ribeyes and then I was pretty miserable. Like I didn't enjoy it. I just was only doing it to save my life for my daughters. I think that's kind of what some of us go through is when we restrict down to just carnivore diet, a lot of people that do it are what I call last resorters. This is their last resort. All these health issues, you know, autoimmune, metabolic disease, we get to a point where we are desperate. That point of desperation is really a blessing because that is the point where we start to look for answers. And I was definitely at that point. I had to make a decision if I wanted to do this hard thing and save my life for my kids or not. And I decided, I don't really think I made my whole decision at that time. My brain was so fuzzy, I kind of floated into it and started trying it, and then it started to work. Around that same time, I found a doctor named Dr. Jason Fung. I found his group. There's a conversation. There's another crazy guy, Cole Robinson, I think his name is. He was telling people to heal your kidneys, just, you know, you're going to do this fasting. So I was researching all that. Anyway, my numbers started to move more. I said to my doctor, can you give me another month before I do any more blood work? I'm trying some things. She didn't ask me what I was trying. I wasn't going to tell her, but she said, yeah, your numbers are moving, so I'll give you a month. I did the ribeyes and I kept doing the fasting. I kept going to Dr. Fung's groups, hearing what other people were going through. Dr. Fung's a nephrologist, so I just felt like there was something there intuitively that was going to save my life. I did that for almost 9 months. I moved my kidney numbers from the 40s to the 80s in 9 months for my globular filtration rate. And I moved my creatinine from toxic, very bad toxic level down to normal. I never told my doctor what I did. But what happened then, and this part is where my story actually starts, right at this point at which my numbers completely resolved and I was no longer with kidney disease. My only lasting effect from all of that is I can't accommodate potassium very well. I have to be careful with potassium. But other than that, I have normal kidneys. What happened then was the actual day that my doctor cleared me from any more blood work and said, you can get your normal blood work. You know, you're no longer technically a kidney patient. Because I had kidney disease, the nephrologist would come in every morning, check on me and tell me what my blood work showed. From the night before, I'd do blood twice a day, and they would talk to me about my numbers, and they would put me on water restriction because my numbers did get wonky. That's what septic shock does. It attacks your organs. My electrolyte numbers would get wonky. I started telling them, you know, I only eat meat and fat. Although in the hospital, I had a few other things. I tried to eat blueberries. I couldn't digest them. I had to take so much medication. I had to get food in me. So I tried to stay as carnivore as I could. When it got to the water restriction, I remember one of the nephrologists, he said, wow, you really moved your numbers dramatically. He said, you know, they always ask you, like, how much water do you have your measuring cup? They're like, how much water did you drink yesterday and the day before? And I told the guy, I said, well, I used some dry fasting when I healed my kidneys, which is true. I said, and I've learned to use dry fasting when I lost 70 pounds, all through this whole thing, and I only eat meat and fat. And he said, wait a minute, you dry fasted? I said, yes. He said, so you didn't drink any of your water? I said, no. I said, I dry fasted for 12 hours yesterday. I drank all my water in one shot when I had to take my medication. He was like blown away. I said, that is how, I have reduced all the inflammation in my body is by trying some dry fasting. And I know that it works for my kidneys because I've done it.
Still working my way through level 4 of the Steak and Butter Gang protocol. I am in a 48-hour fast right now, which I started yesterday at 4 o'clock. So I'll end it tomorrow at 4 o'clock. I feel good right now. I am also doing a pseudo dry fast. I measured out about 4 cups of water, and I will restrict myself as best as possible to 4 cups of water for the entire 48 hours. It's a pseudo dry fast. It's something that I do because I can't do a full dry fast. And I find that I get all the benefits of the dry fast without some of the suffering. I can use the water to take my vitamins. I can also use it if I'm going to have a little tickle in my throat, and also I use a little bit when I'm lifting.
Dr. Jason Fung may has no idea who I am, but he changed my life because what I discovered when my numbers moved is the ribeyes took care of my sugar addiction so that I could actually not eat the culprit that was causing my kidney disease, but it was the fasting that rested my kidneys. And so I tell any clients I have with kidney issues, you need the rest. The kidneys need to rest. And when they rest, they can heal, and you already have the nutritional support of the meat and fat. And so carnivore opened the door for me to be able to fast, but it is the fasting I really believe that rested the kidney. All that time, there had been this tiny bag of gummy bears on my desk. That whole time, just sitting, like right up there on your monitor. I remember that day I picked them up, I opened them, I put them in my hand, and I distinctly remember looking and thinking, should I eat these? Just like an alcoholic. It was very casual. I was like, yeah, I'm going to eat them. I had that little handful of gummy bears. It took almost 9 months, and I gained back the weight I had lost and 30 pounds more. After it just saved my life, my daughter went for a physical to my same doctor. I hopped on their scale there. I hadn't weighed myself. I knew my clothes were a little tighter. I put myself on the scale. I was almost over 200 pounds. I was like, wow, Amy, you're really an idiot. I can't believe you. I was like, wow, it really hit me. As I said to myself, you did all that misery, and now you're back where you started. This is surely going to end up in your blood work. It's going to show in your blood work. And that July, I said to myself, that whole 9 months, I had tried to get back on carnivore. I could not do it. My sugar cravings were so intense. I was falling off. I had no real anchor to hold on to that would get me back on. I said, August 1, I'm going straight carnivore. This is it. This is like your daughters need you. I say my story started then because that's really when I made that decision. And looking back, I can articulate this so much better because looking back, I really said, you want to live or you want to die? What do you want to do? And in truth, part of me, I didn't want to live. I really hadn't committed myself to being living. I was just existing. When you are dying from metabolic disease and all the accompanying things that go with it, it's not like a heart attack, it's not like getting hit by a train or in a car accident. It's not a fast death. It's a slow, horrible death. It wasn't it wasn't actually bringing me I wasn't going to get that relief soon, right? And so I had to have this kind of talk with myself and say, are you going to do this and save your life? Or are you just going to keep existing and let your daughters see you deteriorate until you finally die? And because of my daughters, I wanted to be here so I could take care of my parents as they aged and my aunt. I wanted to be here so that I could see my grandkids. I finally admitted to myself, maybe you don't think enough of yourself, Amy, to want to heal and be here. but these other people need you and you want to see their joy. You want to witness their joy. That's what made me finally decide, just to be here. And that decision ended up changing everything for me because I really got invested and serious enough that I could make it work. And I made some changes. I tweaked some things to the carnivore lifestyle that I could live with. I had flavored electrolytes. I used fat to quell my sugar cravings, which were extremely intense. And on August 1, I had my plan and I went forward and I suffered. The first 3 months were awful. I was just trying to stay on it no matter what. Really, at the 5.5 month mark is where I started to feel better. And with my clients, when they're going through this hard time, it's so hard for me to tell them because they're like, how long is this going to last? This misery that I'm having. And I tell them, like, for me, it was 5.5 months. That's not true for everybody. But for me, it was that long. And in those first days, you don't look good. The inflammation hasn't completely left your body. I don't know if you've seen that picture of me with the red shirt on, where I'm laying in bed and I fell asleep with my phone on my lap. That's my picture. That was right before I found out I wanted to live, basically. And when I look at that picture, it epitomizes what was going on in my mind and my emotional health and everything, that I kind of given up. That's how I looked. That didn't change. I only lost 18 pounds in the first 4 or 5 months. I ended up at the end of the day losing like 70 pounds. But those first months, your family, your friends think you're crazy. You're only eating meat and fat. You don't have anything to show your results. And a lot of people fall off at that time. It wasn't until I got after the 5.5 month mark that things quickly accelerated for me. I started really working out. I talk a lot about our addictions and how our addiction still is alive and well all the time, even after we've become accustomed to meat and fat. My addiction just transferred from sugar addiction to lifting weights then. I couldn't go a day without going to the gym a couple times a day. You might say that's a good thing, but what it really shows is that your addiction doesn't really leave you. I always say I'm one Twizzler away from going all the way back. But in the course of this, I found a place called Steak and Butter Gang and found Bella. What I really saw was I saw Coach Raymond and Coach Emily's pictures, and I saw their before picture and their after picture. I looked at that. I was like, that's me. That's my before picture. And look at them now. And that's what drew me to them. I have a little policy. I'm like, you don't take weight loss advice from a skinny person unless it's like Ben Bickman. Then you can make an exception. Someone like that, somebody who studies what I call, studies obesity and all these things. But, you got to find your fat person that you relate to. And so that you can have some hope. And so I joined Steak and Butter Gang. The first month, I just sat quiet and listened to everybody talk and what they were telling them to do this thing called priming. Coach Raymond was basically saying, you need to eat as much as you can to Thanksgiving stuffed until you almost feel sick. And I was like, what in the heck is this craziness? I did it. And all of a sudden, my cravings were gone, like completely gone. There's something there about healing your body with the meat and fat first that gave me a foundation. And then after I did the priming protocol, and I started to move into the fasting, the body fat just fell off of me. My face changed. For a long time, I would look at my face and not recognize myself. And it was in a very uncomfortable way. Like Dr. Sean O'Mara talks about, he didn't recognize his face. He felt like this is his opposite. He would look at his face and it would look like an old man, but inside he didn't feel like an old man. And then when he went carnivore, he made his face match his insides. For me, I looked at my face after I lost the weight and the inflammation, and I didn't recognize myself. In fact, I felt embarrassed and kind of, just pulled the introverted person in me out more because I felt like eyes were on me and I wasn't used to that. I didn't like it. It's taken me a long time to get used to my new face, my new body, and I have all these imperfections, but inside I want to live. I'm enjoying life. So a year after I got into my carnivore and all these things happened, I got a UTI that I didn't know about. And I ended up getting septic shock. And the day that I went to the ER, I was sitting in the intake and the nurse, somebody collapsed in the room, in the waiting room, and the wife was like freaking out. And I said to the nurse, I said, go ahead and take that guy. And he looked at me, he's like, no, I'm not worried about that guy. He said, right now you're either experiencing heart failure or septic shock. Well, I knew a little bit about septic shock because my parents are in their 80s. You know, there are people in our lives that have died from it. I thought in my head, please let it be heart failure, not septic shock. Because I thought I could probably survive my heart, but I don't think I can survive the sepsis. I spent a couple weeks in the hospital. I was very lucky. I almost died. I was in the ICU. It was a life-changing thing for me. It was like I was in a resort. I know that sounds weird, but I still had my job that I was like a workaholic. I was in there with septic shock. I wasn't working. I was like, wow, this is great. I hope I never have to leave this place. You know, I was like, this is the best thing ever. And I was sick. I was all hopped up on, painkiller. I had constant diarrhea with all the antibiotics they were putting in. I had tubes in both my lungs. I had to carry around this little suitcase from my bed to the bathroom that was constantly draining all the stuff out of my lungs. They were trying to save my lungs. That's where the septic shock hit first. Unfortunately, it happened to me, but I really believe that it saved me to have all of the meat and fat diet. That was about a year ago that happened. From now, I ended up coming out of there, out of the hospital. I lost my job. I didn't think as well. I had quality issues. I lost my six-figure income that I had. My whole life got thrown into people wanting me to tell them what happened to me. Like it accelerated where people were asking me, what'd you do with carnivore? They didn't even know about the septic shock. But now I had time to talk to them and tell them. And I ended up being more involved in Steak and Butter Gang as a moderator and then becoming a coach. Being a coach with them and hearing other people's stories and feeling their desperation. I'm not a perfect coach. You know, I don't know exactly what to tell everybody, but I feel like when they tell me, we work through it together. A lot of people fall off. Like people come into this way of eating so restrictive. There's some components there, and you have to have number one to start carnivore. You have to have the desire to live. Nobody's like, hey, I want to be skinny. I'm going to go be a carnivore. Never. It's not worked that way. The people who want to be carnivore, they're dying or they have disordered eating. There's something that evokes desperation, and then they find carnivore. So people who fall off of carnivore, it's almost like they don't have anywhere else to turn. For me, it's like the doctors and the nurses saved my life. So I'm so grateful. But you always have to advocate for yourself and chase your health. I'm constantly trying to chase my health. You know, this is your life. You're responsible for it. The other thing about that, people don't understand where you are and what you've been through. They're not you and you're not them. And if you can look at them in a loving way, everybody has the right to their own journey. So they have a right to find this like you found it. So whatever thing you did to heal yourself, they have the right to that journey as well. Wasn't born a carnivore. I mean, I was eating bagels with butter and honey. They have a right to do that too. You can't just expect going into this, you lost 2 pounds and some inflammation from your face, and now you're like, everyone should be carnivore. That's not how it works. Don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about it. Let people live their lives. Live your life and be an example It's so much more empowering for me to be like that instead of try to get other people to be carnivore. There are some people who are very dogmatic in the carnivore world. Really, everybody has to find what works for them. Like Michaela Peterson says, she doesn't even want to be carnivore for her whole life. She's working toward reintegrating other foods so she can enjoy them. That is really what it's about, finding your carnivore, meaning that after you heal, can you reintegrate other things? And so dogmatism, extremism, it doesn't really have a place, even though the diet itself is extreme. It doesn't have a place because most people are trying to heal. And so if that means that you can have spices, if that means that you have food variety, if that means that you eat sweet potatoes and avocados, these are things that it's nobody else's business really. You have to find what works for you. And if you're open to that, then maybe you can heal and then eat some meat and fat along with whatever you want. Like I'd really love to eat blueberries, but I still can't digest them. So I don't eat them yet, but maybe someday. I do still do fasting. Right now, I'm doing something completely different. I'm trying to keep my cycle for as long as I can. And I'm trying to maintain my hormonal health. I've been experimenting with something called fat fasting for the last 6 weeks. So when I eat fat, I go way up into the ratio, like 90% of my calories. So instead of doing a regular water fast, I fat fast. I shovel all the fat in. I'm eating tallow pudding that I make. It's like tallow to me, it's like flavored plastic. I put stuff in it. I put like cinnamon, I put vanilla powder, I put protein powder. It still tastes like flavored plastic, but for some reason I love it now. And so I'll make tallow pudding. I will eat very fatty meat. I'll eat butter. I'm trying to eat all the fat to see what it does. Strange things that have happened. The first thing I noticed is my armpits started stinking like a teenager again. They haven't stunk in years. I mean, there was no stench and they stink. And so I was like, what is this? And I finally realized it's my hormones, my hormonal shift. They're stinking like crazy. My hair, my nails, everything's growing like crazy. My skin is different. My cycle is different. But the biggest thing that is really kind of actually, I don't like this because I bought these clothes. They don't fit now. My cup size, when I lost my weight, I went from, I was fat girl turned fit girl. So I went from like a full C down to negative A. Now it's way back up to a C. My breasts hurt all the time. Literally, the last 5 weeks, my breasts have hurt all the time. That's because they're growing. Those are the two things I'm doing right now. If I do a water fast, I dry fast the first day. And then I'm doing a lot of fat fasting. And I really feel like, there's something there. But one thing I really try not to do is I never undereat on my eating days. I try to eat all of the food I can get in my body. I will eat all day. I'll eat the whole day because I know that if I undereat, all these hormonal benefits, everything, it will go straight down the tubes. So I purposefully eat like crazy, which is what we learn when we prime. I eat like crazy and then I fast like crazy. And so that's what I do now. I eat a lot of Mexican beef, which I put chorizo seasoning in it, a single seasoning. I eat a lot of what I call my recipe is Italian wedding soup, which is Parmesan meatballs dropped in chicken broth. And I eat a lot of carnivore chili, which is ground buffalo and ground sausage and a stick of butter cooked down and then broken up very finely. I usually put sour cream on it. I eat a ton of salami. I do eat steak. I prefer New York strip. I just bought a brisket. I'm going to make that. I love to have chuck roast fried in butter. After it's been all cooked, I'll eat it fried in butter in the morning and then I'll fry up like 8 egg yolks. Just flash fry it. I'll eat that. I don't eat egg whites. I don't like them. I don't think they really inflame me, but I don't really like them. So I don't eat them. I don't eat that much butter. I'll put it on a few things like my fried rice burgers. I'm going to show you how I make Asian fried rice burgers. First, use a little bit of this Coconut Secret or Coconut Aminos. It's made with coconut tree sap. It does have some carbohydrates. I wouldn't worry about them. This is the secret ingredient, fried rice seasoning. And that's pretty much my total rotation. Once in a while, I'll eat some barbecue sauce with allulose in it. If I'm having meat aversion, which I do get meat aversion, I love to eat chicken wings. I love air fried chicken thighs and turkey thighs. I make my own ranch, which is just Boursin cheese or Alouette with a little tiny bit of pickle juice in the blender. It's so easy. But when I get a craving or I have any kind of anxiety, I put carnivore food in my mouth. And if I put the carnivore food in my mouth, my craving goes away. I don't try and do it with willpower. So I do try and eat a lot of food. For people in a hopeless situation, I want to say that when you are feeling like nothing is there that can help you, it may or may not be carnivore, but if you put yourself in the mode of chasing your health, if you listen to people that have conquered all of their health problems, then you're going to be able to change your mindset and feel hope. You have to find other people who have done that. Even if it's not what you're going to end up with at the end of the day, if you start investigating, you're going to find some answers that help you. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's a process. If you just put yourself there where you commit to looking for it, in my case, I was able to find things that help me and save my life for my daughters. Don't research everything to death to find the perfect thing. It might be keto. It might be animal based. It might be, I mean, God forbid, it might be vegetarian. But I'm saying you have to put yourself in a position of chasing it. You have to want to learn. And when you put yourself in that spot, it's going to lead you to what you need. Give yourself grace. It's not going to be perfect. That's what you learn from other people that have been through this. It is not perfect. There's a bravery, and if you're even putting yourself in the place to chase that, you're already brave, and you should know that about yourself. Just start something that resonates, that appeals to you, and then you will open up other doors, you'll find other things. It's just the starting that you need to do.